And that's very powerful because quite often you look at someone and you put them on a pedestal, don't you? He or she is an incredible communicator. He or she is an amazing athlete, and I could never be like that. And my whole one-line thesis is talent equals practice in disguise.
If you want to do more public speaking in presentations, but you're fearful of it, that's a signal that it matters. If you hide away from it, the fear paradox is that you will always be invisible.
Your superpower is next to your deepest wound. The deepest wound for me being, I'm not good enough, I'm not an extrovert, I'm not worth being heard, then inverts when I make that decision at 16, coupled with practice, coupled with micro bravery, one conversation every day, to now become the hippopotamus, I guess.
What does it feel like when onboarding, payroll, compliance, and even IT access all through one platform? It feels like everything finally works together and HR finally has room to scale. Deal brings global people operations into one place, so new hires start strong, workflows stay compliant, and teams move faster. See it in action at del.com/NickDayHR. Hello and welcome back to the HR L&D Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Nick Day. I'm the CEO at JGA Recruitment Group and we're specialist HR recruiters. Now, we've talked a lot about leadership on this show. But to be an effective leader, you need to be really effective at something else, and that's communication. Today, I have an absolute expert with me in communication. He's also, for full reference and transparency, my coach as well. I've worked with this individual for some time, and it's completely changed the way I look at communication as a skill. So I wanted to bring you onto the show today to help our listeners, HR leaders, CHROs, who may have all the expertise in the world when it comes to leadership and organizational development and the things that come with the HR gambit, but not necessarily have had the coaching, the training, or the insight in terms of how powerful communication can be. So today I am absolutely delighted to welcome Michael Campion to the HR L&D Podcast. Michael, how are you feeling?
Amazing, thank you. I'm in awe of the introduction. You need no further coaching. We're done.
We're done. Well, I'll have to put it down.
My job here is done. Clearly got some ROI already. But thank you. A very kind introduction.
Well, I think the one thing that I've learned in the time we've worked together is that point of reflection, right? We need to sit back and reflect on how we communicate. We often don't like the sound of our own voices. I've discovered that.
Nobody does.
And I think you've given me the gift of reflection, and you need to reflect in order to improve. I know that you can help our listeners on that journey as well. Before we get to that point, let's ground it a little bit. I'm going to ask my first question, something I ask all of my guests, which is this. What do the words human resources mean to you?
For me, they're almost diametrically opposed, right? Because I think the tendency in the worst organizations is to depersonalize, and someone is seen as a resource, as an asset. And for me, the human part is far more important, it's far more valuable. And it's meeting people where they are, treating people as unique individuals. And I know that sounds a bit woo-woo and touchy-feely, but it's true. And you see the best organizations, the people are alive. They're happy to be there. They bring their full selves to work. So human resources, I think the instinct is, you've seen it over the decades, right? You've worked in the industry for a long time. It's become less and less personalized, more depersonalized. People are seen as, it's moved away from people and it's gone towards assets, resources. I don't like this kind of mechanical vocabulary. I much prefer the individual human level. We should be centered at the locus of the individual. That is the right locus of attention.
Nice. Well, we're going to be diving into that a little bit more. I want to find out where that goes. Right? We want to get into the world of communication, which is great. Before we do that, though, I want to talk a little bit about your credentials, because you have quite a unique background. I deliberately left it out of my introduction because I think it needs to come from you. You have a background that is immersed in sport, in working with some of the greatest leaders on the planet, working very heavily with CHROs and HR leaders also across the planet, obviously from Hong Kong. We're in the UK recording this today. So tell us a little bit more about your story.
I'm so lucky, honestly. I frame myself as lucky and fortunate that I've managed to work across so many different industries. And every time I've managed to fulfill a version of my dream, I've been able to indulge my own passions, my curiosities, and my strengths, which is a privilege not everyone gets to have or enjoy, sure. Right? A lot of people become very competent at a certain thing that they're not particularly in love with, they don't particularly enjoy. I've lived my boyhood dream multiple times over. I played professional football, as you know. I didn't go the conventional route. I was an investment banker first. So born and raised in Hong Kong, moved to the UK for university. I came to that inflection point, as a lot of good athletes do. It's either you go all in on sport or you choose the sensible route. And, you know, no one in my family is, I love them all dearly. I have great relationships with everyone. No one in the family is an entrepreneur. No one's really a risk taker. I'm the first generation entrepreneur in our family, really. All beautiful, caring human beings, but they chose steady careers, lawyers, teachers, etc. So I went to business school, I went to investment banking, and I had this quarter-life crisis. I remember vividly, and I say it because the weather in London lately has been terrible. It's beautiful today. But I was sitting at my desk, surrounded by, the kind of 4, 5, 6 trading screens at the Royal Bank of Scotland. I look outside the window. It's 3 p.m. It's dark. It's dark at 3 p.m. I'm just sat in front of these trading screens, moving numbers around for some of the richest corporations on the planet. I'm not good with numbers. I'm actually not that good at trading. Everything was a struggle, but I thought that was where I was supposed to go because I was smart and I got good grades. And you all get funneled into, consulting, banking,
Sure.
etc. I'm good with people. I enjoy the English language. I enjoy relationships. I enjoy that human-to-human connection. I wasn't built to sit in front of a trading screen. So I kind of ripped it all up. Long story short, moved to Canada. You talk about reflection. That's when I reflected and went inwards. I had to kind of regain my interiority. What is enough for Michael? What makes me happy? What do I need? Turns out it's not a lot. I need the mountains. I need the ocean. I need people I love around me. And I need to feel like I'm learning and growing. So I delved back into kind of the thing I was best at, which was football. When I was a teenager, I got to play for the Hong Kong national team, play in the Premier League for a few years, which was great. Many twists and turns along the way, but I've been an entrepreneur for the last decade or so. When I was a professional footballer, I started to spend more time on camera, on the radio for BBC, etc. And you get pretty good. You get pretty good at speaking. You get pretty good at being on camera. You learn to carry yourself in a certain way. That is not the footballer stereotype. I know that.
Sure.
But I didn't take the conventional route anyway. I've been a professional speaker now for 15 years and the corporate trainer and executive coach for the last 6, really, in terms of the corporate offering. But professional speaker for 15 years. The most interesting part of all this, I think, is that I used to be terrible at public speaking, which is the fun part, because it means I can help other people get better because I fix my own painful problem first. And that's very powerful because quite often you look at someone and you put them on a pedestal, don't you? He or she is an incredible communicator.
Sure.
He or she is an amazing athlete, and I could never be like them. And my whole one-line thesis is talent equals practice in disguise. Talent is practice in disguise. That's it. That's why I was a good footballer. I trained until, my parents were screaming at me to come back upstairs. It's dark outside. All the other kids had given up. I was there by myself with a ball, kicking it against the wall, and just playing with it, playing with the angles, playing with the technique. It's the only reason I was good at public speaking, because you know the story, but I'll repeat it for the listeners. When I was 16 years old, I kind of woke up one day fed up with how my life was turning out, being shy, introverted, reserved, bit of a wallflower, to be honest with you, quite nerdy, bit of a bookworm. I set myself this KPI. I don't know how I came up with it, but I said I have to have one conversation with a stranger every single day. And I wasn't allowed to hit the pillow until I'd done it. And 365 repetitions a year minimum, because on a good day you do more than one, you get pretty good. And I hit the books as well. So I learned from the masters. If I can give one helpful habit to the listeners, honestly, you will absorb wisdom through osmosis. And what I mean by that is anytime you see or hear someone who's really, really smooth on the camera, on the microphone, or they have a lovely turn of phrase, pay attention to it. Because there's a reason it stirred something inside you emotionally, and there's a principle, there's a technique underneath. If you can unpack the structure of it, absorb it into your armory, go out and have a conversation with a stranger and practice it, you start to sound like them. This is not mimicry, this is not imitation, this is learning the patterns and routines and techniques of genius. That's all it is, right? I learned from people better than me, and I put it into practice for the last 25 years.
There's a lot to unpick in that, but what a brilliant
Sorry,
summary.
it was a long answer.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, look, full transparency, the reason that we came into partnership and the reason I actually came to you, it was that way around. And I said, Michael, I would love you to be my coach. I didn't know if you had capacity, was because of the way you held a room that I was in and the way that you had such presence in the space. Now, sometimes we look at ourselves in a way that other people don't see us. I looked at myself and felt like, I don't feel like I have that presence. I feel like I have the knowledge, but I speak very fast, I'm energetic, and all these things. You look at your own, sometimes people view them as strengths, sometimes you view yourself with those same qualities as weaknesses. Yeah. And I came to you and said, I want to be able to present in the way that you do. I want to be able to hold a room in the way that you do. But what I find really interesting about that response, to take it back slightly, is you almost had like a Jerry Maguire moment. You kind of ripped up the handbook and went. Yeah. My favourite movie. But you actually, at that moment in time, you didn't have the skills. No. You kind of knew what you wanted to do, potentially. But you actually didn't have, they came later. And that's sometimes, that's way riskier, I think, in my opinion. I just find that whole backing yourself moment really quite inspiring. But what I think is really interesting is it sounds to me, if what I'm hearing is correct, that you were led by purpose rather than, I guess, what may have felt in the moment was ordained to be your direction. When actually, no, it's out of alignment. And I think that lines up nicely with the world of HR, because we're trying to build companies, we're trying to scale organizations. But if we get that alignment wrong in terms of purpose, values and mission, you're always going to have problems with retention, attrition and things like that. So when you're working with clients, to bring it around into a question, where does purpose come into the skill element? You can have all the techniques and things you mentioned, learn from the greats.
Yeah. You can get to an 8 out of 10 just by learning the skills, the tools, the techniques. Pretty quickly, actually, if you have good guidance, good coaching, someone to mentor you and show you the way. But to get the final mile, to get to a 9 or a 10, you need to be driven by something much deeper, because otherwise you'll never fully commit. Right? This applies to jobs, this applies to relationships, it applies to everything. Without the inner drive and fuel and purpose, you will never fully commit and go all in. And I know that there's been many points in my life where I haven't necessarily had that purpose at the beginning, but what I always had was the curiosity and the willingness to learn. So, the classic career advice is follow your passion.
Sure.
I hate it. I hate that advice. Follow your passion is terrible, because if I canvass most people, doesn't matter if they're school kids, I speak at schools, I speak at universities, speak at, Fortune 500 companies. If I ask people, what is your passion? I would say a good 2/3 of the room can't tell you. It's true. They cannot tell you what their greatest passion is. And that's fine. That's okay. Because the whole environment, the media is set up to make us feel like we're inferior or somehow insufficient if we don't have some burning deep desire and purpose. It's okay not to know. What for me is much more valuable is I'm curious about this. I could go down the rabbit hole for a few hours and lose myself. That's enough. That's enough of a signal. You don't need some deep burning desire and purpose to begin with. That comes later. So am I curious about how great communicators work? Yeah, I'm really curious. Why is this guy or this girl able to hold the stage and hold the room and I can't? That's pretty interesting. Can I scratch at it? And as you start to go down the rabbit hole, you learn new stuff. You keep going up this little step ladder of competence, don't you? It's like competence. And then you find purpose on your way. That's how it works for me. No one's passionate about football if they're crap at football, right? Excuse my French. And no one is passionate about, speaking on stage if they're racked with nerves and they're awful at it. You have to achieve some level of competence first. You see the results and the effect it has on other people. Oh, they got some value from that. That fires me up. And it's this beautiful, virtuous loop, I find.
So you mentioned then, I'm going to unpick it a little bit because I'm intrigued to know the response would be. You said it doesn't matter if we don't know what our passions are necessarily. I'm surprised when I work with coaching clients that most people I work with, when I ask them what the meaning of life is for them, they don't have an answer. And yet this is what we're going through every single day. And for me, I think that's something we can work on together. Yeah. But I think it's one thing not to know what your passion is. So let me rephrase it. Is it okay to not know what your passion is with awareness that you don't know what your passion is? Or is it still okay not to know what your passion is without that awareness? And I think they're two different things. Sometimes we go through life without the awareness that actually we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Well, others go through it and go, well, this is just where I am at the moment and timing may be wrong or whatever, or like I can't find a way to my passion. Maybe I don't quite have the level of ability to get football being a good example for you. Yeah. Passionate about it, but there was a moment in your life where you went, I'm probably not quite at the level to make it right at the top of the game. Yeah. So you have to then kind of redirect it. So do you think it's okay not to have a passion but have an awareness that that's the case, or do you think it's okay either way?
If we kind of put it through the lens of work and business, okay, it's an unfair and unrealistic expectation for me to find and derive all your purpose from work. And again, what is the current zeitgeist? The current zeitgeist is do what you love, follow your dreams, follow your passion. Yeah. And I love that. And you and I are very fortunate we get to do that. We're super fortunate. Not everyone does. But I don't actually think, having done other jobs before, and some people aren't built actually in such a way where they have to derive all their purpose and enjoyment and meaning from work. It can come from elsewhere. Like you and I are both the same at core because we would do anything for our 2 kids, right?
Sure.
You have a son and daughter, I have a son and daughter. Actually, if all this stuff were to go away, and we have no podcast, and I have no corporate training, executive coaching, but I have my kids and you had your 2, you'd be fine. You'd actually be fine. So as much as we sometimes put on our jacket and pretend like I have a great purpose at work, and I do. I love what I do. I love helping people. But it's funny, isn't it? It was the same on the football pitch. I always derived more enjoyment helping other people. I was always the one who created the goals for others. So my assist rankings were always much higher than my goals. And I love setting other people up to score. I like seeing other people win. That makes me happy. But you're right. You have to arrive at some level of self-awareness to realize what you're doing. Because a lot of people will just kind of truck through life And when I think about my time in investment banking, and this is not a knock on investment banking, by the way. I know it sounds like it, but it's really not, because everyone's built different. But for me, with my skill set and blind spots and weaknesses, it wasn't right for me. But a lot of people just barrel on. They're on a train and they don't realize they bought the ticket years ago, and they just wake up one day in their 40s and like, how did I get here? I don't get it. Yeah. So I think for me, the gift was, I guess, the gift of reflection and introspection, and having, I guess, that time and space and awareness to go inwards and realize, if I stay this way, I'm not going to be happy 10 years from now. And I guess the hard thing is to give yourself that psychological distance to reflect and think about, what is my purpose? What do I enjoy doing? Because it does make a huge difference. And if you don't have that purpose, people around you will also feel the weight of your unhappiness too.
Sure.
It's not just on you.
So I guess if we accept that purpose helps drive better performance, as you said, you can get to an 8 to 10 with the skills and the techniques. And I still think communication is one of those skills that's overlooked. You know, we invest in training, diversity training, leadership training, whatever it might be, even credentialing in terms of understanding the space that we're in. It might be CIPD here in the UK if you're an HR professional. But actually, we very rarely invest in something that is deemed, we do it every day, we communicate. I don't have the time to invest in communication. I think it's one of those things we naturally feel like we do quite well until we're put into a position where we have to do it publicly. And then we completely doubt ourselves. Yeah, we need the coaching. But there are going to be a lot of CHROs, HR leaders, HR professionals listening to this that absolutely fantastic at what they do, but actually go into a state of complete, I guess they're terrified when it comes to speaking publicly. Sometimes even if it's not public in terms of it doesn't have to be on a stage, but even presenting to a board, we're afraid of getting things wrong, afraid of communicating in a way that may allow us to get judged. So with the techniques that what are some of the strategies that our listeners could come away with today to go, okay, I've got a presentation coming up, I've got a speech coming up, and I want to nail it?
There's multiple things, and I'll try and condense it. But something you said that I love, what I find staggering still is, I was with Standard Chartered, that's not confidential, I was with them in London yesterday, doing a corporate training workshop, a lot of very senior people in the room, some younger associates as well. Every single workshop I start, I always ask a little hand raiser, who here has actually had any public speaking or presentation skills training before? None. Yeah. Like sometimes one or two. And even them, I asked them, how was it? How did it go? They're like, I don't really remember. It was 5-10 years ago. It's staggering to me. It's staggering. I do not understand it. Selfishly, I love it because I get to have a real impact, because everyone is actually starving for this stuff, whether it's small talk and networking and chit chat and kind of business development, or whether it is, as you say, presenting to the board, presenting on a panel. All of these things, I always say there's 1,000 opportunities to influence. So even if someone says, I don't really need public speaking training, I would define a Teams call with 10 people as still a presentation. It's still pitching, It's still influencing. You're trying to get someone to say yes. Yeah. So the undercurrent is influence. I think to help people, techniques to help people, a lot of it just starts with this, right? And it's the inner game, right? It's the mindset of how you approach speaking. Again, so much stuff fresh in the memory, which is great. I'm happy we're doing this because I had this workshop yesterday. So the real pain points in the room for people. She arrived at this point herself. She realized the question to me was, Michael, I feel like, I go on stage, I go on a panel, I present to a big audience. I'm fairly comfortable, but I talk in circles. I don't really know how to end my sentences. Maybe I'm not doing enough preparation, if I'm honest. I was like, yes, you said it, you got it, right? And my one-liner is that is the separation is in the preparation. And I've been super fortunate to work with some incredible high performers in the world of business, in the world of sport, but more in the world of business. And the intensity, the depth to which these people research, prepare, rehearse again, the speech craft, refining, polishing the messaging, they will be up until 2, 3, 4 a.m. if they need to. If it has to be done, it has to be done. Most of us, we think we work hard. I don't mean this to be controversial or, I don't mean to bang the drum for hustle culture, but most people, their idea of intense preparation, frankly, is it's not there. It's not at the levels it needs to be. And the confidence you need to get on stage is earned. It's earned. If you've done the reps, and the beauty of you having 3 podcasts is you get reps on a daily, weekly basis. You have earned confidence when you get on a microphone, right? And with you, we're just trying to refine and polish. We're getting those final touches. I don't have to build you from the ground up. But number one is most people really phone it in when it comes to preparation. And they wonder why they struggle. They wonder why they're a bit anxious. They just haven't, if they look themselves in the mirror, they know they haven't done the work. And the only person you can't lie to is yourself. when you look in the mirror. So that would be one. Number two, I think a lot of people approach it from the wrong mindset and perspective. You're familiar with the spotlight effect?
Yes.
Yeah, in psychology. Yeah, so the spotlight effect, we think everyone's looking at us. We think we're the main character of our lives. And to be frank, no one really cares. No one's thinking about you. And that's beautiful, by the way, guys, right? That's actually a good thing. What I prefer to think of with the spotlight is I am the spotlight shining it on the ideas. So when you've got your screen, you've got your PowerPoint, you've got it up, all I'm focused on, genuinely, when I get up to give a workshop is how do I get all these incredible techniques and principles into their brain? I want to get everything in here into them so they walk out more confident. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not really worrying about what I look like, what I sound like, what my body language is doing. I'm just in flow, trying to get all of this information into theirs. And you have a trade-off, right? I love talking about trade-off. So you have a decision. Every time you get up to speak, who do I want to struggle more? Me or the audience? You know me, I have a high tolerance for suffering.
Yeah.
So I would prefer to struggle more by spending 2, 3, 4, 5 days and nights, whatever it takes, to get my presentation on point so that when I turn up, the audience can enjoy it. They don't have to work hard. It will land. Or I can choose to do nothing and just wing it, right? As we say, I'll do it on the fly. I'll wing it. I'm fairly confident. I'm pretty good. I've been doing it for 20 years. And who struggles more then? They do. Because they don't really understand what you said. They don't really know what they have to do next. So it's what side of that trade-off do you want to play on? Who do I want to struggle more is a good one.
HR leaders, I know you're driving culture, transformation, engagement, and now digital reinvention as well. But none of that works without the right people in the right seats. I'm Nick Day, host of this podcast, but also founder of JGA Recruitment Group. And here's what I hear every week from top HR leaders. They say, Nick, we can't find the talent. It's our biggest challenge. And when we do, we can't retain them. Well, that's where we come in. At JGA, we specialize in HR recruitment and only HR recruitment. From executive search assignments placing CHROs, to contingency hires finding HR pros, to global HR transformational contract placements, and every people role in between. Across every vertical and at every single level, we know where the top people are, what motivates them, and most importantly, how to get them excited about your opportunity, even if they're not actively looking. With engagement rates over 90%, we don't rely on job boards. We rely on relationships. We place fast, we place right, and we do it in a way that reflects your brand, your values, and your goals. So if you're building a strategic HR function, please don't leave it to chance. Visit jjarecruitment.com or reach out to me directly and let's build the future of work together. There's an interesting point in there because if you do get away with it, let's say,
yes,
actually it encourages complacency.
Yeah.
Because you think, well, I've got away with it the first time, so now I'll prepare even less the next time.
It's good enough.
And it works the other way around. I mean, you mentioned earlier about how much practice you put in to become a professional footballer. I don't know if you've read the book Bounce, 10,000 hours of meaningful practice.
Yes.
Not 10,000 hours of practice. The difference there is the word meaningful. You know, you're actually trying to improve. And I'd say whether it's podcasting or public speaking, you get better, but you cultivate the courage to get better as well. It's like there's 1% increments of I've done it now. You reflect, you learn, you try and improve. And actually it's that, as you said, that introspection, that reflection that allows you to try and identify where the gaps are. And I got to a point where I couldn't identify them for myself. So I needed you to come in and help me with my blind spots. And then actually, when you've given them to me, it's like, I did know those. And, you know, maybe I wasn't being honest with myself, but there's quite a few there. And maybe I wasn't willing to confront them. And sometimes that's been really helpful as well.
We all have those, though, by the way. Like I always say, it's very easy to point the finger. It's hard to point the thumb. It's very easy to blame other people. Oh, the audience was a bit cold. Were they? Maybe they were, but, you know, mea culpa, like put more effort in, more energy in. But it is helpful to have that coaching mirror, I think.
I think the messaging is important too, though, because you talked about trying to get the message from the presentation into their brains. That actually takes the focus away from the public speaking altogether, right? It's a different mission statement. So it takes it away.
Yeah. What is the emotion underlying? Yeah.
What you don't want is the audience thinking, I feel his pain right now. He's suffering on stage. That means we're suffering. It's the compassion that you don't want to achieve, right? So it changes things. I'd also argue that if you want to do more public speaking and presentations, but you're fearful of it, that's a signal that it matters. And sometimes we hide away from those signals. And with my fear theory here, that if you hide away from it, the fear paradox is that you will always be invisible. So if it means something to you to be present and be visible and get the message out to the people, and you let fear get in the way of that message stays invisible as well. And I think for the leaders in this space that have so much to say, so much value to bring, I think it's really important. I think there's a skill I wanted to ask you about, and we've never had this conversation, by the way, even in our coaching relationship. But I'm a big believer in the power of listening. That's what the podcast is about. Often we listen with the intent to reply, which is a dangerous space to be in. But when you're in a public setting and you're giving a talk, how important is that listening? So listening to the audience, listening to the feel, the temperature, listening to yourself even. Something we've worked on is a 10-second silence for me sounds like 10 minutes, but we have that inner conversation in our head, even in a live environment, we're listening to certain things. Yeah. We often think of public speaking being about talking.
Yes.
But actually, I would probably imagine that listening plays a really important part as well, and even curiosity to a degree. But I'd love to get your take.
Yeah, I love that. It's a beautiful question. We haven't talked about it before. So I think listening, there's a couple of angles, right? So listening, when you can actually see the audience, and this is the vast majority of people. Most people won't actually get onto a stage where, it's thousands of people there in the dark and you actually can't see the audience. But for the vast majority of the time, I really do pay attention to the audience's body language in particular, because just the way you're slow nodding now, that's a good signal for me. Slow nod is, yes, I get you. I feel like I'm in, right?
Yeah, I am.
This
as well,
is resonating.
Because we haven't done this piece yet, so I'm intrigued.
But if you're doing the fast nod, it's like, Michael, let's go. It's time to wrap it up. Yeah, the fast nod is okay. Let's move along. So you're looking for those clues. If I've said something and someone said the price, I finally revealed the sticker price, and somebody leans back and sighs in their chair. That's a clue, right? In a boardroom environment, I'm looking for the smiles. I'm looking for the eye contact. Are people leaning in? Are they really engaged? Are they starting to go on their phones? This is also a big one that throws people, I know, because sometimes they'll say, Michael, there were people on their phones in the audience. I was like, yeah, you did an awesome job though. I was there as well. You did brilliantly well. Maybe their wife was at the doctor. Maybe the kid had to be picked up from school. Maybe they just have a terrible attention span. It wasn't on you. Focus on those beautiful human beings who are really leaning in and engaging, and they make a difference for them. So I'm always paying really close attention to the body language, and I think it's a great clue for you, knowing when you have them and knowing when you don't. And that's good information for next time, because the truth is, for the vast majority of us, most of the time, myself included, I can't keep you, especially, I do full day workshops sometimes, 7 hours I'm standing up. Yesterday was 4 hours standing up holding a room. That's hard, right? 4 hours straight. I'm going to lose some people at some point. But that's then, how do I go into my toolbox, arrow in my quiver and pull something out? All right, let's do a bit of an exercise. Or let's do a bit of interaction. Let's get a poll going. Let's do some breakout rooms. Whatever it is, throwing a Q&A session, throwing up a video, whatever it is, changing the pace. So feeling those clues is really, really important. The second part with listening is you have to do almost the pre-listening and understand beforehand, what does this audience need versus what you've prepared, right? So a lot of the element is preparation, understanding the demographics, the personalities, their pain points, their struggles. So I'm going to design it with them in mind, but then also being willing to change on the spot. And that's really where the elite separate themselves, I think. Yeah, because anyone can prepare a presentation, but to then go in the room and says, Nick, actually, I'm really struggling with this. Can you forget all that? What are you going to do now? Have you done the work? Have you done the reps? That's where, the separation really comes to the fore.
It's powerful, right? Because it's about, as you just articulated, it's about, is it about what I want to say? Or is it about what they want to hear or what they need? And sometimes, we can get lost in that because we're so passionate about the message we want to get across. But then we've got to be able to construct that in a way that hopefully positions it in a way they're interested in hearing it as well. Interesting as well with the phone example. I would always go back to saying things like, nothing means anything but the meaning we give it. And you can either assume, as you gave a great example, maybe on the phone to their wife who has an issue. Where the obvious thing that we would naturally go to, that survival brain that we have, that anxious brain, is it's because my talk's no good.
They hate me.
But these are stories we tell ourselves. So it's about breaking out of those and having the confidence in your material. And I think also you mentioned the breakout piece. That's a really good sign that you've done your preparation in advance. If you haven't done that, it's very hard to on the fly go, this isn't working. And instead we get stuck because I've prepared it this way. I have no fallout. Now what do I do? And that can be a really difficult and challenging place to be in.
And a lot of people, their temptation is to just go deeper, faster, deeper. They start sweating, they get more anxious, and just,
And it's not landing. It's not landing. What do I do? And then we've got the quick nods.
A lot of quick nods. But the listening ones, it's really interesting. I know I'm guilty as anyone of sometimes not listening sufficiently. I guess in the smaller, more intimate environments, it's even more important, right?
Let me give you a challenging question then. This is,
sure.
I didn't know I was going to ask this, right? So I like the idea or the theory of asking individuals whether you're an elephant or a hippo. Bear with me here, right? You'll work out where it goes. So the hippo has a huge mouth, likes to talk, loud voice, and the elephant has huge ears and likes to listen. When you're on stage, the assumption I would have made pre-meeting you would be that when you're on stage giving a talk, you're the hippo, and everyone else in the audience is the elephant. But is that the truth? We just talked about listening. If you were to give an animal to the public speaking thing, I'm putting you on the spot now, what would the animal be?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, classic politician, is spin it how I want.
Yeah,
so
fine.
classic Michael Campion answer. I used to be an elephant, and now I'm a hippo. Okay. So I think part of my superpower is I was incredibly introverted, incredibly shy, and a bookworm when I was a kid. I was all ears. So I kind of would... The analogy of an elephant is great because I was a social scientist. I was a fly on the wall as a kid. So my parents were very sociable. They threw a lot of parties at home. We'd have karaoke parties. Our house was a very lively place, but I was always hiding in the corner. Okay. But I was listening. I was observing. And my mum, this classic line, she'd always say, don't worry about Michael, he's very shy. I would kind of hide behind her. Like my whole life, and that sticks with you. Again, it's the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves.
Sure.
That's a very powerful story. So that stuck. Oh, I'm shy. I'm introverted. I don't like talking to people, and I absorb that. But your superpower is next to your deepest wound. Okay, so the deepest wound for me being I'm not good enough. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not worth being heard. Then inverts when I make that decision at 16. Actually, it's time to change because I've been watching everyone and listening, and I know what makes people laugh. I know what makes people lean in. And now I can use that, coupled with practice, coupled with micro bravery, one conversation every day, to now become the hippopotamus, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I like the idea as well that you're showing that identities can shift. We think we have this identity and we're a slave to it, and it's absolutely not the case.
Totally.
My good friend of mine said that beliefs is the word lie surrounded by BS.
I love that.
And it's like it's so true, right? We can shift those things. I want to bring to the fore something that I discovered from watching your social channels post when we met. So we met in Bali, and you ended up on, I think it was a 16, 17-hour flight that was delayed or something along those lines. I think you had 45 minutes sleep, and you ended up giving a workshop to leaders that listen to this show, so to a group of HR professionals that needed the best Michael Campion they could have. And I know you were sleep deprived. And actually, the reason I'm bringing it up is not to show you up for being late, not late, but for your flight delay, but more because you came away saying it's one of the best workshops you've ever given. Yeah. And I just want to find out, and you don't necessarily give us the story as to why, and I'm intrigued because it's a room of people that are similar to my audience today. You came out of that energized, and you can tell that even from your words written on the page. You've been giving these for now 10 years workshopping. Yeah. So there must be something that happened for you, or there was a revelation or something is how I'm reading it that says actually after 10 years this was one of the best things I've ever delivered, and I'm just intrigued to find out why.
Yeah, it's a great question, and that was one of the best most enjoyable workshops. It's a two-way street though, isn't it? And thank you for picking up on like my level of enthusiasm when I came out of it, because I had literally 45 minutes sleep and barreled straight into this room of strangers who I've never met. I have to impress them, and energy is a two-way street, so you cannot give what you do not have. So even though I only had 45 minutes sleep, I made a decision here. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm just still going to show up, and I'm going to push myself through this, because every single workshop, again, everyone has their style, right? I want mine to be high energy, interactive, and it's a conversation rather than, it's dialogue, not monologue. All of my workshops, I want it to be two-way.
Sure.
But that means they have to meet me where I want them to be as well. So they were giving me the receptivity. They were giving me the interaction and energy levels that I needed to pull me through. Because if they had been passive, it doesn't matter how good I am. I might be able to bring them out of their shell a bit. But they were so willing, so open and ready to learn that it just made it so enjoyable. So enjoyable. So I think... when one person teaches, two people learn. So that's why I loved that workshop, because I learned a lot about myself, and I also learned about why I love certain groups of individuals. And it speaks volumes about that company. I'll name it Framas. So when I worked with them, it speaks volumes about their company and that location in particular, that the senior leadership team have created this culture where everyone just turned up, notebook, pen, phones, laptops out the way. And it's like, let's go. I'm super present with you, Michael. We want to get better. Like, what more do you want as a coach, right? It's a dream. It's a dream.
I remember doing my theatre training back in the day. I did a master's in theatre 20 plus years ago. And we were taught, rightly or wrongly, I'm sure this can be challenged, that there's no such thing as a bad audience.
Yeah.
It's about whether you've given yourself and given the energy that the audience demands, and they'll give it back. And sometimes if you're giving the same show night after night, you're not always at your best, but you think you're delivering the same thing, same line, same content, same stagecraft. But if the energy's a little bit off, the audience will feel that somewhere. Yeah. And we blame the audience. We say it's a really bad audience in tonight. And actually it's not the audience. They've they've spent money to enjoy themselves. Yeah. Somewhere, maybe it's subtle, maybe it's in the subversive text or whatever, but it's somewhere we're not delivering, and we have to own that.
Yeah.
And
it's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point. You're so right, because it doesn't have to be a big shift. It's just tiny. A tiny drop in energy levels, it's almost disproportionate, the effect it has on the audience. So.
And even with 45 minutes sleep, it proves the energy is always within us. And if we use it in an HR context, you could be delivered maybe from above. A message comes out to say, everyone's at risk of redundancy. No one wants that meeting. And immediately the energy is sapped out of the space. Yep. And you feel low, and you struggle to do your next task because your mind's operated. And you think, I've got no energy for this. Why do I bother? And you feel like nothing can get you up. And next day, the news is still there. You struggle to go to work, struggle to get out of bed. You kind of get in the car, you do the commute, and your energy's low. You're low at home with your family. And then suddenly the same corporate comes back and says, actually, that's off the table. We've just done an acquisition. This has happened. It's great. And suddenly our energy's back in the room. It's back. It was always within us. Yep. We just lose it because circumstance
for sure.
impacts how we feel. Yeah. I find that always an interesting thing to consider if we're talking or communicating with our teams. Like, where are we in our moment?
Yeah, and again, with those L&D and HR professionals, they're the ones who've organised this workshop for the team. It's up to them to then embrace it and make the most of the opportunity, right? And when you meet a group who are so willing to embrace that opportunity to learn, that's just always energizing, right? I think you've read enough of my social media posts to see my one-liner is always, he who runs for fun never gets tired. I love what I do. How cool is that? I'm really lucky. I genuinely don't get tired when I do these things. I'm on stage, on the mic for a long time, but I can feel I'm making a difference, and that's enough for me.
You got some fantastic sound bites as well. I'm still on the one teaches, two learn piece. That's stuck in my mind. I'm loving that.
When one person teaches, two people learn. Every single time.
So let's dive into the workshops you deliver. There might be people that, okay, you know what, this is resonating with them, as you did for me. By the way, if you haven't met Michael in person, there is an unbelievable presence of, I don't know, calmness. I don't know. It's what encouraged me to come to you and say, can I work with you, and do you have capacity? But there might be people listening to this thinking the same thing. So tell us a little bit about the kind of workshops you're delivering to HR L&D teams. Yeah. You're global, of course, based in Hong Kong, but you'll travel anywhere. You've been at Standard Chartered this week. Yeah.
It's my defensive moat is I don't need sleep and I'll fly anywhere.
Well, exactly. So. And I've grabbed you while you're here, which I feel really privileged to do.
So really lucky. Yeah, again, bulk of my work is with multinationals in Asia Pacific. So bounce between Hong Kong and Singapore, but also do London, Middle East, other places as well. But yeah, the bread and butter for me, my zone of genius, and there are plenty of areas I'm weak, again, is communication skills. It's storytelling for business. It's executive presence. It's pitching and presentation skills. How can I get people to listen when I have something to say? And that's really important for the C-suite. It's important for HR and L&D. It's important for the 21-year-old who's just joined the company, right? They're trying to convince their boss to listen to them or grab them in between meetings when you've only got 30 seconds to have an impact. So it depends what lens that the individual company wants to put it through. Sometimes it's more sales team oriented for example, a headhunting or recruitment firm. It'd be more about having those client conversations and how to get prospects to say yes, whether that's client or candidate, etc. For others, it's through the lens of personal branding. Others, it's through the lens of leadership, empathy, feedback, difficult conversations. Because there's always an uncomfortable conversation we're avoiding, isn't there? So that's always a universal theme. But I love digging into the mindset and resilience piece as well. So that's something I'm increasingly getting asked to do, which I think is healthy for everyone, that employees are taking a more holistic and serious look at well-being and mental health in the workplace. And I think when they see someone like myself, and again, I'm very open with difficulties I've had as well, because I think that we don't trust people who haven't gone through difficulties or hard times. I don't think you can have depth of character and an easy life. The two are incompatible. You need both, right? So I think being able to speak to people as someone who loves what they do and has passion and has energy, but has also been in some dark places and manages to wear different hats and, like you, juggle multiple businesses, family life. I think they're like having some kind of external perspective on that. So the group workshops are the bread and butter. But then again, I do have a handful of people like yourself, which is great. And I get to work with people one-to-one. So generally it's presidents, CEOs, managing directors, partners. And usually it's people who are already decent at public speaking, or they're very, very senior, very visible. They just want to get better. Yeah. Your line to me was brilliant, wasn't it? You don't have to be ill to get better.
Correct.
You messaged me, right? Yeah. And you're right, because I was almost apologizing to you for, you hiring me. But you're right. It's a lot of these guys and girls, they're already pretty good, but they know they can get better. And this is what I always teach to the people one rung below. I'm like, look at him or her. They're hiring me to get better, and they're already leaps and bounds ahead of you. So if they still think they have room for improvement, what's your excuse? I'm not saying hire me. I'm saying go out and invest in yourself in some way, right?
I think it's interesting. So I work as a coach as well, as you know, and I'd always be slightly skeptical, rightly or wrongly, and challenge me on this for coaches that don't have their own coach. I think, you're giving you're telling people it's needed and the benefits, and yet you're not investing in your own coach and your own development. I'd be slightly skeptical of that process, right? Because we can always hold a mirror up to ourselves and look at ourselves differently. And I think that's where a coach can really, really help you. What's interesting, I think, in that response there is at the moment, you're helping people, you mentioned, go through change. I mean, in the world of HR, I feel like every person I speak to is going through some level of transformation in their organization, organizational change. There's a lot of consolidation in the HR market at the moment across software vendors. There's a lot of change happening, and with change, there's always going to be resistance. And I think one of the biggest challenges that our audience has is how do we get the workforce on side when they're resistant to change? People don't like change when they feel like they've got. Well, actually, humans, I would argue, do like change. We just don't know it. But in the moment, right, I think that you get more joy after struggle than we do with no struggle at all. And you mentioned that. Or alluded towards it with the idea of having depth. I think also every person listening to this show is probably, if you've got to a level of seniority in your firm, you've probably had some level of story behind that, whether it's your personal, professional life. There's been an element of challenge in that as well. It's kind of recognizing how that moves forward and how that changes and moves the needle. The one thing I wanted to check with you though is more on the dreaded word of AI. Okay. So artificial intelligence is causing a lot of this change at the moment. Organizations want to embrace AI. They want to be more efficient in the way that they do things. They want to be seen to be investing in it because that's what, to attract the best talent, they assume talent wants to look at. But we're encouraging change programs in an area where a lot of professionals don't actually understand it fully, what they're trying to deliver. So I think that's challenge number one. I would also argue that in a world of AI and technology, where the answers can be given to us in an instant, it makes the art of communication more powerful than ever. Because if we start relying on those tools too much, actually, for me, you rip out the heart and the soul of your organization very quickly. So how do you see the world of AI? Do you see it as a positive, a negative, an indifference? I'm just keen to get your perspective.
I think you've done a deeper dive than I have when it comes to AI, right? I think my view on it is similar to yours in the sense that communication becomes even more important. Okay, so physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so you're going to have all these people and companies rushing headlong into the arms of AI, right? And they think it's going to be the saving grace. You will have an equal and opposite reaction of people who want the human touch. They want to do podcasts face to face. And the best example for me is a few years ago. You remember what were the buzzwords during COVID? NFTs, blockchain, metaverse. Where's the metaverse now, guys?
Yeah.
Where is
the
it?
NFTs now?
Where is it, right? People trading these things for millions of dollars. It's gone. It's fugazi. It's smoke. But that's not to say it might not come back in some shape or form, but we're still doing live concerts. We're still doing face-to-face meetings. We're still doing leadership offsites. We fly everyone and everyone thought that during COVID and when planes stopped that we weren't going to do this anymore. We need the human touch. We need it. We're social primates. We always will be. Yeah. Okay, so people are always going to want that final mile, the last leg. You can use AI to, as you said, intelligence gathering, analysis, refinement. But the last leg is I need you to trust me and I need to trust you. I need to look you in the eye and know that we're going to be in business together for a long time. And that's where the human-to-human connection is always, to me, going to be important. It's going to be even more important when everything can be fabricated and we can't distinguish between something artificial and something real. We're going to still have to get on a plane and I'm going to hug you and I'll shake your hand and make sure this is a person I want to spend time with. So I think this is where the ROI on investing in your ability to communicate and transmit ideas and transmit belief to people is really, really important.
I agree.
And there's also the discernment piece, right? Because I don't know about you, I love using Claude over ChatGPT for certain reasons I won't bore people with, but you still need to, there's no accounting for taste. There is some discernment and judgment involved from the human being, the user, that needs to be applied to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Because it will give you endless suggestions. And if you don't have a sufficiently well calibrated sense of taste, judgment, experience, it gives you some pretty horrible suggestions, actually. Sometimes very, very good. Sometimes I like using it as a thinking partner to challenge me deliberately and ask, like, what am I missing? Where are my blind spots?
Sure.
What have I overlooked? Rather than telling me, what should I do, dear AI guru? Yeah.
I mean, I saw, I won't name who put the post out there, but this is one of the alarming things that I saw. I don't want to hold negative. I'm actually a huge advocate for AI, but as you said, used in the right spaces. But it was an HR professional that put out a templated presentation as to how to get investment from the board that people could use from AI. They'd curated it, and that's great. The issue I have with it is if everyone uses the same template and it's clearly written by AI, it actually tells you, for me, if I was on that board, that you don't really invest in this at all. Like, someone who's truly vested is someone who would take the time to do it themselves and not outsource that project. Someone who's truly invested would really think beyond the realms of what AI can deliver back, which is pulling on resources that are already out in the public domain. When you're looking for high levels of investment within a major firm, there has to be a level of uniqueness here that goes beyond the template. And I felt it was more damaging than good when I saw that post. And most people are saying, yeah, thanks. But I was thinking, the amount of people that use that template now, if I was on the board and I identified that AI had generated it for me, it would tell me you don't care enough. And I think caring is really important within an organisation as well. I also think
I want to go deeper on that one because it's such a good point, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. It deserves being double clicked on. Did you read? It's Rory Sutherland stuff. It's what we call a costly signal.
I haven't.
Right. So the concept of effort, right, is going to really distinguish you and separate you from your competition. If I give you the wedding invitation example, let's say I invite you to my, I'm already married, but say I'm not. I send you a wedding invitation, clearly AI template, automatically send to your Gmail, or someone, another friend, sends you a beautifully handwritten letter, personalized, on nice card, sends it to your physical address. The weddings are on the same date. Who are you choosing? Costly signal. One person really cares and really wants you there. The other person couldn't be bothered to get out a pen. They just used a template and sent it. So it's a costly signal, and we like people who care. We like people who've demonstrated effort and they've gone above and beyond. And it doesn't take much now, which the beauty is, because people are using AI to draft everything. So it's literally one sentence to personalize. Oh yeah, I'm going with this guy instead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes against the idea of sort of commoditized coaching. Obviously, works as executive coach as well. AI is dangerous. People forget it's a sycophant. We love it because it gives us the responses that make us feel great. All the endorphins and all the right signals and hormones are triggered when we read these things. Yeah. But they don't necessarily serve you. I think the one thing that working with you has taught me is you give me the harder truths, the things that AI wouldn't give me in the same way. Because I can, like an echo chamber, I can still direct it. Yes, it gives me ideas, but I can still prompt it in a way that avoids the harder truths. Whereas when you work with someone else that holds up a mirror, you can't hide from them. Doesn't mean you have to accept everything, but you can't hide it. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to the HR L&D Vault in just a moment. My last question is this. For the people listening to this show, you can take this any way you like, but what's the question I haven't asked that could leave a lasting value to our listeners? It can be in the world of the art of communication. It can be in the art of coaching. It can be something completely separate. But what's the thing I haven't asked today where you go, you know what, Nick, this could really resonate with the audience?
You haven't asked. I guess within, it's a fairly safe choice, but I think I would keep it within the realms of communication skills and, the art of storytelling for business. How do I make people pay attention? Right? And the answer there is, I think when most people design a presentation, right, and we do this every day for work, formal, informal, you're hosting a meeting, you're delivering an investment pitch, whatever it is. What most people actually have is a Frankenstein deck. It's a collection of slides from different individuals and different teams put together, and you're trying to give it some semblance of structure. Whereas what you need to do is actually ask the question, what do I want the person to feel when they walk out the door at the end? Most people never think about designing emotion. They're only thinking about what slide sequentially should be after the other. What do I want the journey, the narrative arc of this 45 minutes in the meeting room together to look like? I need to take them somewhere. I need to make them feel something or they won't do anything. So a lot of people say they struggle to learn how to start the presentation because the hardest part of writing a speech or writing a presentation, as you know, is blank, page one, cursor clicking, blinking at you. The easier way to think about it is, how do I want them to feel when they walk out? What are the words I want ringing in their ears after the speech is over? That is where you start. And now you can reverse engineer it and take them on a journey to get there. Most people are super logical, super left brain, super rational. and they'll just use the presentation as a delivery of facts. And a deck is not a vehicle for the delivery of facts. A deck is a vehicle for the delivery of emotions. That's what people get wrong.
Yeah, I love that. And you've actually phrased it much better than I did. You're a master of this. I was going to say it's interesting the choice of language you're using in your response, because you weren't saying I want to give this presentation and I want people to leave with an understanding of this is what I want, or I want to tell them this. So you were very deliberate in your use of the word feel and feeling. And I think that's something that all of us, myself included, could get better at. Is I've got a message to tell. I've got I have a directive I have to give. But really, in order for it to really land, to truly land, it's not about them just understanding it. It's not about them just hearing it. They've got to feel it. They've got to feel it matters. They've got to feel that there's an importance to it, that there's a cost, as you mentioned earlier, to not doing this thing. And I think that was probably you've done it for all your life, but the word feel for me was really powerful in that statement. I think it's the most important word probably in it for me.
Totally, because I think people, they understand it intuitively when I say that, but when they reflect, what am I actually doing day to day? Yeah, you're right, Michael. I'm just being really safe and really rational and very logical, and that's fine. I need to know you've done the work, but make me care first.
I tell you, I'll give. I wasn't going to go here, but I'll give a little bit of a self-depreciating story before we go to the vault. And this relates to feeling and my personal life. And my wife won't thank me for sharing this story, but it's true. So in the morning before work, I would make myself toast, and there's a chopping board that's right next to the sink, and I would butter the toast, and there'd be a few crumbs left behind, and for whatever reason I wasn't cleaning the crumbs up, and every day she would come down and she'd wipe it off right next to the sink, straight in. It's a 2-second job, right? And every following day I'd come down, make the toast, leave the crumbs. I was not aware, or not consciously aware, that I was leaving this for her to clean up, but obviously every time I came down the following day it was clean, and I wasn't putting the two things together. It's such a minor thing that took a second, and my wife never mentioned it. She was just doing it. And eventually there was an inflection point where, for the umpteenth time of her cleaning up my crumbs, she just lost it. And of course my immediate reaction is, it's a 2-second job. I'm sorry, I understand it, and that's a 2-second job, but come on, it's out of proportion. But what she said, it's not the crumbs, it's how it makes me feel. It makes me feel like I'm Cinderella. Like, you can leave it. And of course I was heartbroken when I realised how it was making her feel. It was not about the job at all. And more for me, that I've got to be more aware of these things in myself, but you often teach the things you most need to learn, and none of us are perfect. But it landed so powerfully for me. The argument was immediately over and done with, because I couldn't dream of wanting to make her feel like that. Like, I was heartbroken. That's how she felt, and she let this sort of go on and on. And it's similar to even public speaking, if you want to bring it into context. Like, we sometimes feel that we can't deliver, and we let that go on and on until it gets to a point of complete paralysis.
Yes. Yeah.
And we can't overcome it.
Yeah, let's say 2 seconds per day accumulated over weeks and months, and suddenly it all blows up. But you're right, yeah. You're devastated, right? As a husband or wife, when you realise you've made your partner feel a certain way, like, oh, I didn't realise I was doing it. Yeah. But that's it. Sometimes it's small and we don't realise. But
well, look, let's open the L&D vault. Some short, sharp questions for you. The first is this. What's the one thing you now know that you wish you'd known at the beginning of your career?
Wow. The one thing I wish I knew then that I know now. Everybody's making it up.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I don't mean that in the con artist sense. I mean it in the sense that all the successful people jumped before they were ready. And I have the privilege of working with some very senior people in many industries, and I don't take that privilege lightly. I have access to some really superbly intelligent and resourceful and kind people who've done very well in the world of business, and even they are racked with doubts, and even they don't know what they're doing 100% of the time. And that's okay. Yeah, because when I'm 21 and I think back and I'm looking up at these people, I'm thinking they've got it all figured out. So maybe a better way to phrase it would be, there's no adults in the room.
Or no one's figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, imposter syndrome is rife at all levels of market.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
What's the overriding quality for you that you've seen in every great leader that you've worked with?
Ooh. I can only pick one.
You're forcing me. I am forcing you.
One, calm.
Okay.
Calmness. Because, I mean, one of my favorite leaders, and he's become a very dear friend of mine, James Riley. He won't mind me mentioning him because it's all positive. Former CEO of the Mandarin Oriental Group. He said on my podcast, calm is strength. And he learned that from his mentor. Calm is strength. If when all is turbulent around you and you can keep your head, people will gravitate towards you because they think the whole world is falling apart. But if you as leader, it's okay, we'll be all right. That calmness spreads. So they all have that, the good ones.
Nice. I had a previous guest on the show that talked about having people that follow you or being part of a membership. And she said that you can find followers easier than you can find someone that's really bought into a membership. That idea that this person's got me and I want to be part of that club. It's slightly different having people sort of blindly lead, which is different. I'm interested to know, you've used this as a soundbite today, and I've mentioned it a couple of times because it resonated with me. You've been teaching me and my listeners today, but 2 people have been learning.
Yeah.
What have you learned today?
I've learnt that it's related to listening. I'm not actually the best listener in the world, because there's a couple of moments today where you've been making a lovely point, and my temptation is... So it comes from a good place. So for me, I'm a very active listener. I do that, yeah. And on a podcast, that doesn't work, because now I'm messing up the sound for the mixes later, right? And sometimes I just need to let the other person cook. I just need to let you run with it. And my instinct is I want to actually show support that I'm listening, but dependent on the context and the environment, sometimes it's better just to shut up. So
what you're saying is you already know where I was going. Nick, you can stop now. I know what the question is. It doesn't need
I'm working on
just
shutting up sometimes and letting the other person finish their sentence, because it shows respect, and it shows that I don't just want to jump in. And often it does come from a good place, but it's not helpful sometimes. That's what I've learned.
Last question. What do you believe is your greatest skill? But equally, I believe there's a dark side to every positive. What's on the dark side of your greatest skill? What's the cost of it?
Well, yeah, we said it earlier, didn't we? Your superpower is next to your deepest wound. For me, sensitivity. My sensitivity allows me to understand what the audience needs, and that's why my messages can land. But also, I feel everything too deeply. I feel things too personally. I take criticism very personally. Sometimes I don't have the tough skin necessary to, I think, be in the public eye. Sometimes I'm better at it than I used to be. So I think it's the gift and the curse.
Full transparency, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but we've cried together, right?
We have. Yeah,
it's
we have.
I think it's a strength. I think that vulnerability and that ability for us both to be comfortable in the same space when we're dealing with difficult issues is a real strength and a superpower for sure. Look, Michael Campion, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the L&D podcast. For those that have listened and really want to find out more, where can I direct them? Yeah, thank you first and foremost, and for being such a generous host, and I've loved doing this with you. I think it's very easy. My handle is the same everywhere, so it's Michael X Campion. X stands for Xavier. There is a famous Hollywood actor called Michael Campion, and he nicked my URL. So it's michaelxcampion.com. It's Michael X Campion on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. It's all Michael X Campion, so you can find me there. I'm also partner and head of corporate training at Quinlan and Associates. So that's the corporate training firm I'm with. We run all the corporate workshops and executive coaching across that platform. We're based in Hong Kong, but as I said, Singapore, London, Middle East. I will fly to you wherever you are. And hey, you have your own podcast. I haven't even mentioned that. I do. I know. Yeah. Plug your podcast. No, so the podcast, thank you for the plug, is called Playing the Inner Game. So Playing the Inner Game is something very close to my heart. I haven't been as consistent as you, to be honest, in terms of the output over the years, but it was a passion project I launched during COVID. It was the #1 business podcast and self-help podcast for a number of years during COVID in Hong Kong. And it's conversations with exceptional communicators, whether entrepreneurs, CEOs, Olympic athletes. And why is it called Playing the Inner Game? I believe you have to master the inner game first before you have an impact on the outer world. So I only really want to interview people who've actually gone to the lengths to explore their interiority and what's important to them and why they think they're here and what they're trying to leave behind. So hopefully you can go there. We're on all podcast platforms, and just beautiful conversations with interesting human beings. That's all it is. And by the way, this is a fantastic show. I have to say, I am a subscriber. I've listened, I think, to most of the episodes now since I discovered it. So do check it out. And all the links will be in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on the move, you're commuting at the moment, you've got this on your favorite audio platform, click straight through to the show notes. A link to Michael's LinkedIn profile, businesses, and podcast will be available there. So please do go straight through. For those of you still got you, please do remember to subscribe to the show. Please do follow us, leave us a like, leave us a 5-star review. Otherwise, I look forward to bringing you the next episode of the HR L&D podcast real soon. Stay curious. Stay in the room. It's really important. And let's play that inner game, because that's where the real purpose and the real value comes out later. So Michael, ever so much for joining me today on the show. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Deal is the all-in-one platform to hire, manage, and pay your global team, giving HR one place to work instead of juggling disconnected systems. From onboarding to offboarding, Deal brings payroll, compliance, and even IT access together across 150 countries, all on infrastructure they built themselves. That means HR isn't wrestling with logins, tabs, and tools all day long. Book your demo today at DEEL.com/NickDayHR. That's deal.com/nickdayhr.